officials of the Department of Science and Innovation who is organizing this forum, and with my colleague, Ms. Mampe Chaba, we will be the program directors for the session. And you may have seen the email which was sent to all forum delegates this morning, where we promised to keep it short and punchy, and that's what we want to do. We want to just briefly reflect on the main discussions, the main debates during the past 4 days. We want to look a bit to the future and see what are some of the inspiring legacy initiatives we can take with us. And specifically, we want to hear from a number of African leaders present how this first World Science Forum in Africa will serve to advance the African agenda for science, technology, and innovation. And then, of course, we have very important, outstanding business, and that is the adoption of the Cape Town Declaration, or rather the World Science Forum Declaration, I should say, on science for social justice. Now, our first round of interventions, we have invited 3 science leaders who were active participants in the forum to just share with us their impressions of the forum. And I'm going to firstly invite Professor Folofelo Nel-Mondu, who is the CEO and President of South Africa's National Research Foundation. The National Research Foundation, in parallel with the World Science Forum, we're very grateful, organized a number of very important events which brought together research funders from across the world. So we're going to have the research funders perspective. I would also like to invite Dr. Michael Makanya, who is the Executive Director of the European Developing Countries Clinical Trials Partnership Secretariat. Science diplomacy, international partnerships was, of course, a very important theme of our forum. So we wanted to hear the perspective from a global partnership. And then, of course, we needed to hear from active scientists, a practicing scientist, and a young scientist. As was emphasized many times during this forum, the extraordinary support we received from the Global Young Academy. So we are going to hear from Dr. Clarissa Rios Hoyas, who is going to join us on stage. So, Professor Nel-Mondu, if I could start with you. Your remarks, your thoughts as you go back to our capital city, Tshwane, this evening. What were the highlights you'll be taking from World Science Forum 2022?
Thank you, Mr. Program Director. I'd like to start by just acknowledging the presence of the Deputy Minister for Higher Education, Science and Innovation, Mr. Buthimana Mela, and the Director General of the Department of Science and Innovation, Dr. Phil Mujaha, and of course the global leadership of science, technology and innovation represented here. This was a very interesting week for all of us. And I would like to reflect on this significant week from the perspective of a Science Granting Council. Firstly, the World Science Forum has provided a very prominent opportunity for all stakeholders in the STI ecosystem to connect with a diverse range of partners and collaborators from across the world. And it has provided a platform to highlight the opportunities that can be harnessed to build a just, equitable and transformative scientific enterprise. From the NRF point of view, it has provided us with an opportunity to host science granting councils from the African continent in our partner meetings, and in gathering funding agencies from all across the world and our partners. We managed to have serious engagements on a number of serious topics that are very critical in advancing science going into the future. This includes engagements on topics ranging from open science to climate change and sustainability science, how we can design programs in the postdoctoral phase, and how we can transform food and agricultural systems in Africa. Together, as 18 science granting councils from Africa, we had very stimulating conversations. We networked, we profiled our work during multiple but very dedicated sessions spanning more than 50 countries. The World Science Forum has amplified the areas that we as scientific community need to be focused on if science is to contribute and to drive social justice. We have heard of the importance of disrupting the current system so that it becomes representative. Why transdisciplinary insights and skills will be critical as we embark on that journey, and that many of the urgent and the emergent issues of our time require a scientific enterprise to engage in innovative and evidence-informed systems. A major message from this extraordinary week is a call to action for impact. And I have to emphasize impact in that we have to have science that really makes impact in the society, in people's lives. And in this call, I think it becomes a clear call for all of us to say, let us enact and engage and focus on our shared challenges and priorities as a collective. I therefore would like to leave you with the following considerations. The first one is that we need to be continually led by the belief that science is a public good from which we derive disruptive solutions to the many challenges that we face in our respective communities. We need to build our perspective strongly from this belief, and accordingly then also believe fully that we need to actually call this into action. We need to actually take this belief and realize it. And in doing that, we need to build our respective national capacities while balancing that need to build with the need for us to collaborate so that we can work together. Of course, building such capacities requires creating robust systems for science assessment where excellence has to be seen as a corner pillar for science. And of course, we learned that there won't be any meaningful collaboration unless we are strong within our respective spaces. This further requires us to invest more in the youth, in women, in people with disabilities, and on the African context, a large pool of black scientists who are doing meaningful and excellent science. So in line with the theme of this forum, Science for Social Justice, we need to intensify on shared value creation. Our view is that the financial resources that are given to us by our various publics is simply an indication of the trust that our societies have put on us, wholeheartedly believing that we are going to use those funds productively, and at the end, this will contribute to the improvement of the quality of their lives. And this, of course, then requires us to build a very strong African research agenda and adequately funding that agenda. I think days of just having good agenda and it's not funded maybe are over. We have had a lot of good plans in the past. I think it's time for us to say, how do we actually fund this agenda properly so that we can make a bigger impact? So esteemed colleagues, as I end, may we be inspired to champion and to advocate for and lead change, because the societies that we are embedded in require that of us now, perhaps much more now than ever before. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Noel-Momondo, and I'm confident, but I'd like the rest of us look forward in anticipation to see if indeed the World Science Forum Declaration will respond to those ambitions you've set out. But of course, the research funders, such as the National Research Foundation and its partners, will be crucial partners to ensure the implementation of that declaration. I'm now going to turn to Dr. Michael Makanya, Executive Director of the EDCTP Secretariat, a best practice example for many of us of science diplomacy and also science diplomacy at the service of social justice, to share with us his impressions. Michael?
Thank you very much, Dan. And distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank the organizers for this opportunity of sharing a few thoughts and observations about this very important conference. First and foremost, I want to put it in context of the European and Developing Countries Clinical Trials Partnership that I represent. This is a program which is one of the flagship programs of the European African partnerships that is accelerating research and capacity development, fighting medical problems that affect people in sub-Saharan Africa. And this is mainly on infectious diseases. and it uses an innovative funding mechanism that takes into account the funding that comes from the African member states, the European member states, the European Union, and global public and global private partners that are interested in product development and advancing interventions in the fight against infectious diseases. And taking this, the program is able at the moment to involve 44 African countries that are involved in research and development, and also strengthening their ethics and regulatory activities, and involving 19 European countries. But taking it to another level, 21 of the African countries are part of the governance structure of the program, and 14 from the European program. Now, coming to the program itself, I want to focus on at least two of the key questions that the president of this country alluded to at the very beginning of the meeting. One was on science for human dignity, the role of science in fighting poverty, unemployment, inequality, and exclusions. I always want to speak specifics by using examples. We've seen this practically happen in the fight against infectious diseases. Over the last coming to 20 years, we've invested in research and development infrastructure and people in the fight against infectious diseases. And when COVID-19 hit, these resources had to be mobilized in 25 African countries, where experts had been called out and the local capacity had to stand up to be able to develop interventions and mechanisms to fight against COVID-19. Additionally, in the rollout of this program, we focused on major medical and med needs affecting maternal and child health, individuals with comorbidities and co-infections, and issues that are around genetic diversity. Now, in this case, we see the African countries taking the lead in science. And this now takes me to the other point, and that is science for Africa and the world, and how to unleash potential of African science in global cooperation. And again, speaking specifics here, it is investing in the people. A lot has been talked about educating, training, and retraining. But this has to be systemic. There has to be a long-term perspective to it. It is all right to train 1,000 PhDs, but if there is no systemic plan to ensure their career development and linking them to deliver on the specifics, this will not happen. So we've had an experience of using different mechanisms of training people at PhD level and postdocs, all to global research leaders. And I have to report that we have more than 205 of these that are research leaders that are leading research teams throughout Africa with a multiplier effect. And ending to this, I want to emphasize, numbers are fine, but quality is important. Training people that are locally relevant, but globally connected. The global connectivity is key to bring in external expertise, but also to make sure that what is generated locally will have global utility. And with this, I want to really thank the organizers of this meeting and say that what is being deliberated on will really have very tangible effects if we take the actions forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Makanya. Indeed, I like that very much. Locally relevant, that's what we've sought to do here with the first World Science Forum in Africa, but connected to the global challenges we face and we share. And I would now like to ask Dr. Clarissa Rios-Roya to comment. And I think Michael set the scene for you, commenting and stressing, emphasizing the importance of investment in the next generation of science leaders. Clarissa, please.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I'm thrilled to be in South Africa. I was thinking before coming, what's the best thing that can happen to me during the conference? And I already made some appointments to meet some of your colleagues next week because I'm staying next week to learn more about what you are doing here. And my university and my partners can learn through me about the great work that you are doing. So I still have some spaces. So if you have some time, please let me know and I can visit you next week. The second thing is that I think I'm going to make my point sharing some personal thing. And I have a guilty pleasure. You know, that thing that you like to do in secret that not so many people knows about. And I really enjoy the news about space exploration. And I follow it on the news, on Twitter, etc. But I know that deep in my heart, I'm thinking, why are we spending so much money into going to Mars, into going to the moon, when we have such a priorities right here, like we have to solve poverty, we have to solve climate, and so on. But then I go a little bit back and I think about my work right now. My work is about future risks. So these are risks that have not happened yet. Bioweapons, artificial intelligence not being aligned with human values. And then again, I feel guilty a little bit. And I think, what are you doing, Clarissa? Why you are not working on the true roots of evil? And I think that everyone must be thinking, we have been hearing it from our colleagues, like, why are we in another World Science Forum talking about the same problems that we have been talking about in the previous ones? And to the colleague that raised that point, like, I think all of you are with you and feel empathetic about the same feeling. So I have selected here some roots of all evil, let's say, that I believe personally are the ones that are contributing to these problems. That doesn't matter how much science and facts we give, doesn't matter how much we engage with policymakers, doesn't matter how many Gretas we have out there with citizens engaging and protesting about it, we are not there yet. So the first one is that I think we have a political problem. We have a political problem when we are thinking about the votes and to be re-elected in 5 years, so we are not having like a more than 5 years plan about what to do with the citizens in our countries. The second one will be corruption. At least in Peru, in my country, this is the worst disease that we have, and I believe is the one that prevents any progress in any of the issues that we have been discussing today. The third one is lack of ethics. I think that we don't have enough of these courses in secondary schools, university, and even at work, at the level of executive direction and management as well. And the last one will be lack of diversity and inclusion. And that's something that I'm very glad that has been raised many times during the conference. And I have one more that I forgot to mention, which is the lack of capacity to grasp complex issues. And that's also linked with systemic risk analysis and how can we think from different angles and so on. These are, of course, my roots of evils. I think it will be great for all of us attending the conference thinking, what do you think are the roots of evils that prevent that your work goes farther or has more influence and impact in society? I know that we all have to choose our own battles. We cannot do it all. I think that it will be probably difficult for some people, or like me, to go now and jump into do research in corruption or try to go and work for example, like systems thinking right now and start researching and do capacity building. For some people, that may be a route. For some other people, maybe that's not the perfect route because we live in a world that is very difficult. We have families, we have like no time, we have other issues, so I understand that. But maybe we can think about the root of evils that we have in our mind and try to bring them often to our work, to our decision when we are choosing politicians, to our dinner table conversations, and maybe watching less TikTok sometimes, and that goes to me, and trying to read more about what's happening out there and have it present, and thinking that these are the ones that are always going to be around in everything that we do. So I think to finalize, I will just say that it's up to you, it's up to your communities, to your country, to your region to think about what's the future that you want to have. And if we don't do it now, someone else is going to do it for us, and we will have to deal with it and accept it if we have not been thinking about this foresight exercise right now. I just want to finish then saying, Nkosi Gobu Bele Benu. Thank you so much for your hospitality.
Thank you very much, Clarissa. And indeed, one of the objectives of this forum was to promote new partnerships. So we're absolutely delighted you'll be spending more time here, and we look forward to explore collaboration with you. To Professor Nelmo Mondo of the National Research Foundation, thank you, Fulufelo, for those very valuable insights, and indeed NRF's very strong support for this forum. Michael, you can continue to count on South Africa's support for the EDCTP, and Clarissa, to you and the members of the Global Young Academy, we look forward to continue to be your partner. Thank you very much. We are now going to have a reflection, a strategic reflection on how this World Science Forum can serve to advance the African agenda for science and innovation, which you will recall was one of the challenges also set by President Ramaphosa on Tuesday night. And that will require partnership. It will require partnership between continental bodies, between regional structures, between scientific alliances, and indeed from national governments. And we are very privileged that we have 4 representatives, high-level representatives from all 4 of those communities who will be able to speak to us this morning and share with us their views on the World Science Forum as an instrument to advance the African agenda. Before I introduce them, I would also like to invite my colleague, Ms. Mampe Chaba, the chair of our local organizing committee, to join me on stage, because she's going to be our co-director. In the first instance, for our visitors from afar, in Africa, we are committed to Pan-African collaboration and integration through the African Union. That is our union which brings us together, and we are very privileged that we have with us Mr. Ambani Masheleni, who is currently the Acting Director for Education, Science, Technology and Innovation in the African Union Commission. So if I could please invite Mr. Masheleni on stage with us, please. If you're from Europe, Mr. Masheleni is the equivalent of the DG of DGRTD. That is it. But of course, as we are to be stronger within our African Union, we also have in the continent a number of regional economic communities where we deepen integration at the regional level. For us here in South Africa, we are part of the Southern African Development Community, which is also committed to use science, technology and innovation to bring the different countries of the SADC or SADC region, as we call them, together. And this morning we'll be joined by Mr. Kalisios Tutalif, who is the Acting Director for Trade and Investment in the Southern African Development Community, SDC Secretariat. And just by describing his position, will, I think, emphasize to you how our region is starting to see science, research and innovation as an instrument for growth and development. Thank you very much, sir. But of course, it cannot be all about the governments. It should also be about you, the scientists. And who better to represent the voice from African science than our esteemed partner, the African Academy of Sciences. And this morning we'll be joined by its Executive Director, Dr. Peggy Oti-Boateng, who is familiar to all of us. Thank you, Peggy. And then it's really a real privilege for me and an honor on behalf of my minister, but also my deputy minister, Mr. Buti Manimela, who's in the audience, to invite to the stage and introduce to us His Excellency, the Honorable Amon Muriwa, who is the Minister for Higher and Tertiary Education, Science, Technology and Innovation in our neighboring country, the Republic of Zimbabwe. Minister, we are most grateful for your time. So in order to get the floor going, I'm going to ask Ambani Masheleni for the views on behalf of the African Union Commission.
Thank you very much, Program Director, Mr. Dan Dutoit, and good morning. Your Excellencies, our Deputy Minister for Higher Education, Science, Technology and Innovation, Republic of South Africa, ministers here present, Professor Amon, distinguished guests, organizers of this wonderful event, World Science Forum, and colleagues, dear scientists. Look, this is really a great pleasure for us from the African Union Commission to join you on this important historical event, the World Science Forum, which we believe has really put a spotlight on science in Africa. We want our science to respond to the challenges of the continent and the world beyond. I would like, first of all, to convey to all of you, and in particular the ministers here present, the warm greetings from the Commissioner in charge of Education, Science, Technology and Innovation, Commissioner Professor Bel Hossein, who wanted to be with us here today but couldn't make it, and he is sending his congratulations to the organizers of this meeting, all the partners who have participated, and to congratulate South Africa for hosting this event on behalf of our dear continent, Africa. We believe that this forum has indeed enabled us to rethink science on the continent. Science for social justice, to level the playing ground and close the gaps that we experience in the practice of science. Africa requires a stronger science enterprise that mobilizes all our countries, academia, industry, women and youth to practice science together. One thing we would like to emphasize in today's deliberations is intra-Africa collaboration. We have 55 countries on the continent. These countries are not at the same level of development, and we would like to ensure that there is a strong Africa-to-Africa collaboration. A functional, strong science in Africa is equally important for the whole world. We have seen the pandemic, and if we had mobilized the number of scientists that we have, given our advantage of the youth and big population, Africa can play an important role in the world in terms of research and innovation. I'm calling for intra-Africa collaboration to be on top of our discussions in this forum. Science is now in Africa. In closing, I would like to call upon the World Science Forum, all institutions of the continent, SADC, African Union, and all the practitioners of science, to ensure that the outcome, the declaration of this important forum, reaches all the corners of Africa and the world beyond. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Masheleni, for those encouraging words. Next on stage, I'd like to call our regional multilateral body. They have been part and support a number of pre-events for this World Science Forum, and we continue to work with them to support and build our region. If you can please help me to welcome Mr. Kalishas Tutalife, the Acting Director, Industrial Development and Trade from the SADC Secretariat.
Thank you, Program Director. Honorable Ministers, distinguished guests, and all delegates, I guess I can say protocol observed. I think my senior basically summed up what I would have said, the issue of collaboration. I think that's really the message. We are told of a story of a king who once had a dream, but then forgot the dream. And then he summoned his wise people, the scientists, astrologers, and everyone gathered in this room to come tell him what the dream was and what it meant. And we are told that they failed. And so he sent out a message that they should all be killed. They were not killed because someone else saved their day. Certainly we are not going to kill anyone, at least not those ones in this room. But the message is, Africa has a dream, and so is SADC. That has been made clear in terms of all the strategic blueprints and policy blueprints that we have. We have that dream, and in this room we have people who can assist us to interpret that specific dream. The dream we have is of development through regional integration, that's for SADC, or continental integration, that's for Africa. And we have you to assist us. I think the message said by my senior about collaboration is not just between countries, between institutions. Walking through the stalls in our exhibition halls, you find a lot. Sometimes I ask myself, is there no duplication perhaps? To what extent are these institutions collaborating? Even nationally, cross-border, and continentally. We need to work together, that's one. Our investment in research and development doesn't look good on the continent. It's disappointing that the whole of Africa, on the count, they register less patents than one European country. That doesn't look good. We need to change that, and we need to invest more. I think that's our call. It has always been our call as a region and as a continent. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tuta Life, for those encouraging words. We are indeed partners together in supporting Africa's development. Next up, I'd like to please call upon the stage Dr. Peggy Oti Boateng, representing the African Academy of Sciences. She serves as the Executive Director, newly appointed Executive Director of the African Academy of Sciences. Please let's welcome her on stage.
Excellencies, distinguished experts, colleagues and friends, it's a great pleasure for me to be here on the African continent, because I can remember 3 years ago when we handed over the mantle to South Africa to host this in Budapest. I was on the other side of the coin, in UNESCO. And I'm really pleased that this has been really successful. Why did I say that? Because for the first time, it gave opportunity to mid-career scientists to be here present, to overcome that disappointment of not being given visas to travel to either Europe or North America or Asia. So you can see that we have so many young African mid-career scientists. They also presented many of the groundbreaking research. And they really showed and demonstrated the theme of this, of the forum: science for social justice, science for climate justice, science for human dignity. But also, what I didn't hear much is science for harnessing the potential in our indigenous knowledge systems in Africa. When one of the researchers was able to demonstrate how he was able to put science, to convince herbalists, those are traditional herbalists, how you were able to educate them and say, look, can I help you, or can we help you to put science so that we will be able to valorize your work and put it in the market that can be accepted internationally. So he worked with communities who ordinarily would not have been accepted, and their products would not have been accepted. But she extracted that, took their active ingredient, and now it's on the market. That is science for social justice. The other area of science for social justice is the young people who are able to, optimize their natural resources, where a young engineer is trying to look for alternatives of alloy for making those implants. So they're really groundbreaking research. But how did we do that? We did it through collaboration that is transparent, collaboration that comes with co-design and co-implementation, collaboration that comes to respecting our diversity. And I really want to thank the European Commission for this. They've really demonstrated what it means in terms of having real and truly partnership, where they funded over 45 researchers with $500,000 each. And you can imagine, what they can do with the $500,000. And it's, it demonstrated what it means to have partnership, not only for short term, but for long term, and developing the capacity and the capabilities of all these African young fellows. I also want to emphasize the critical mass, that the power of brain that we have in Africa, from the African Academy of Sciences and all other academies in Africa. And it's demonstrated. Yesterday we witnessed 71 fellows being inducted from different areas, and also 41 affiliates. That's another addition to the great brain power that we have. How are we going to implement the outcomes of this using what we have in Africa? And not only in Africa, but others came from other parts of the world. How do we connect? One of the themes was connecting minds. How do we connect minds across Africa, minds within Africa, minds out of Africa with the rest of the world, so that the next time we can say truly and really, this was a very successful forum, and we've been able to pursue the theme of this and say we really and truly built science for social justice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Oti Boateng, for those encouraging words and point us on what to focus on also in more detail going forward. Thank you so much for that. So next up, I'd like to call the minister from Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is our strategic partner in the region, and we're delighted to have His Excellency Minister Amon Murirwa, who is the Minister of Higher and Tertiary Education, Science and Technology Development of the Republic of Zimbabwe. Over to you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I am really very humbled to be here and to have been invited to this forum by my colleague, Honorable Zimande, and his staff. I just want to say that I'm very was very pleased to see the theme, Science for Social Justice, because that's what it must be there for. But first of all, I think it is very important. When I was starting my PhD about 20 years ago, as a very young man, my professor at Wageningen University in the Netherlands just asked me a question. Why do you want to do a PhD in science? Do you know what science is? I thought I knew. One of the problems that we have is, first of all, to define what science is, because sometimes people are very divided in disciplinary lines. But really, science is a way of knowing. That's what it is. It's a way of knowing with set rules in that knowing, and based on observation, induction, deduction, and so forth and so on. When you know it like that, then this thing of social science, this science, it just disappears. So that's one of the things that I observed here that I thought should just disappear. Let's look at science, as a way of knowing. Once we have done that, we are done. Now, what does this topic for me mean? It basically translates to human needs-based science. What are human needs? People need food. People need water. People need shelter. People need sleep. I think everybody went to sleep. People came late here. People were sleeping. People need connection. That's why everybody's on their phone right now, talking, either with your mouth or through the phone and so forth and so on. People need innovation because you don't want to eat everything. It's the same thing every time or do the same thing every time, and even fashion. Sometimes you cut your clothes like this, sometimes like that. So we need innovation. We need things that are variety, that change. Once we know what human needs are, surely we can tweak science so that it answers to those human needs. That's social justice. Social justice happens when people are happy. We want to make people happy, get born, live their lives in peace and dignity, and die in dignity. That's how I define it. Now, in order for science to make sense, science must answer to what people want. Now, what do people want is what I have said. But where is the context of science? Science must take from what people want, devise methods and ways in which those wants and needs are answered, and develops technology for repetitive reproduction of scientifically defined processes so that people can eat, people can have water, people can have shelter, people can have sleep, people can have connection, people can have innovation. Isn't that easy? I thought that very easy. It therefore means, what are your faculties at your universities? If you don't have a faculty on food, then that faculty does not make sense. That university does not make sense. Because all in all, what we need is to eat. All of us are food. You know very well that we are food. We are just food converted in a chemically complex ways, mixed with the spirit to speak. So, once we understand that, then there's no conflict and we are done. Human needs inform science, which means our curriculum must be informed by human needs. And our curriculum, when science is well done and people know what science is, then they can produce an industry. And when they produce an industry to satisfy human needs, and when everybody's eating and happy and not greedy, the world is good. So, colleagues, this is what I was learning from what we were discussing. So when we looked at this, I will just give you a humble example of what we did in Zimbabwe. You know, Zimbabwe is one of the small countries in Africa, but it has got the highest literacy on the continent, according to the United Nations and according to us and according to reality. But here is a problem. Very literate people can write and read, which means they can code and decode. But industry has either been stagnant or going down. Then you ask yourself a simple question. If these people say they are so learned and so good, why are they not having a rising industry? What is the problem? Is the problem literacy? No. Is the problem science? They know science. But it is the context in which that science is done that is a problem. It is not about knowing what physics is. It's not about knowing what chemistry is. It's about knowing what chemistry is used for, to answer what, for who. So, we analyzed our education system and discovered that, of course, we knew. We cannot call it a discovery. We knew we were doing teaching, research, and community service, which means going to workshops like what I'm doing right now. Talking. Nice. So, teaching, research, community service, which means how many workshops did you attend? I attended 17. Oh, good. How many papers did you write? I wrote 50. Good. Now you are a professor. How many courses are you teaching? I'm teaching 20. Good, Amon. Now you are associate professor. Now you are full professor. So I became full professor because I was doing very good teaching. I was doing damn good research. I was doing a lot of workshops. But I didn't produce any good or any service. So now, we said, now our system of universities is to allow us to use innovation to do industrialization as part of their themes, as part of their core mandate. Because if you don't give this as core mandate to universities, they will remain on Education 3.0. And Education 3.0 produces people for the street who go into the street and say, now give me a job, now I know physics. But what is your physics for? Now, so we said we do innovation, we do industrialization, and we changed all the laws to do with science, technology, and innovation. It's because we suffered this for too long. And Africa and most of countries in the world have been suffering this for too long. This Education 3.0 mantra of knowing a lot and doing nothing. Being very eloquent but hungry. So, we then moved on to say, let's redesign our education so that it becomes 5-pillar education. And we are proudly calling it Education 5.0, which means it has got 5 pillars. And my urge for all who are doing science is that you are very good at your science. But please look at it in those 5 pillars and you'll become a productive scientist. You will be able to say, I'm doing my science for who? So that they do what? And me, I am who? So that the industry that we see is not falling from the sky, is coming from scientists. It's a design issue. How do you design your systems? Now, so if we have intentions, societal intentions, like now, our societal intention is social justice, where people can eat, can associate freely, can innovate. That's all what we are looking for. And we die nicely. We get buried, and we get remembered. Those are our societal intentions. All societal intentions are made through capabilities. Capabilities are ability to do things. You must be able to say, now we have got a virus called SARS-CoV-2. Do we have the capability to sort it out? So you begin to develop capabilities through your science, technology, and innovation. But for those capabilities to happen, you have to configure your people correctly so that they are able to, I was born in the village, so before we used tractors, we used cattle, and you put them on a yoke, 1, 2. And if there are 4, then 2 in front, 2 at the back, then you have got your plow, your chain, and so forth. They are very well configured, and they are well trained. When they are going, you can plow your field, but they are going one direction. But once the cattle start going the other direction, and we call it, it's a way of getting stuck. So we cannot move with a stuck scientific configuration. So the configuration is a big issue. That's why we did Education 5.0. And then we said it should be informed by design thinking. Who are you doing your science for? Because people are very knowledgeable, a lot. People are knowledgeable. I see scientists here, extremely knowledgeable. But friends and colleagues, if you are knowledgeable and your knowledge is not answering to any problem, you are just like the universe. This is what I'm trying to say. This is a frustration that most of scientists have, including myself. I had this frustration that, don't people know that I know this? Yeah, you know, but you know what? They're hungry. They want some food, you see. Yeah? How are you going to provide for the food? Now, so what is the grand plan that we are having, for example, I'm just using it as a humble example. We then said, let's use a grand plan. Let's talk about heritage. Let's talk about our people. Let's talk about our natural resources. When we have those people, intelligent people, we have our natural resources. We configure them properly in Education 5.0, which is heritage-based, because you can't develop with the resources that you don't have. First of all, if you have got oranges, please grow oranges. Like here in the Cape, grapes do very well, so you can do grapes. But if you put marula here, it might die. So the issue is, what do you have as resources? Who are you training? How are you configuring them? Then you can industrialize. This is when science can deliver social justice, in our view. We have tried this model, and I'm just going to show you the results, and I conclude. We organize our science system into science parks. This is just showing you the science park, which houses the high-performance computing system. It's a computer center in Zimbabwe, and the Zimbabwe National Geospatial and Space Agency. So we started building this for the past 5 years. We have been busy with it, and we started a system of innovation hubs across all universities so that we can be able to catch good ideas and do patenting. I'm happy to report the SADC was mourning about patents. I think we have filed to ARIPO more than 500 in the past 2 years as a result of this framework. And it can be done. So we have built innovation hubs, and we have been using engineers, and we have been beneficiating. This is a Masao, it's Ziziphus Mauritania, for those ones who are botanically gifted. Ziziphus Mauritania, it's called Masao. This tree is from, it's from the Zambezi Valley. It's like marula now, which you are using. You know, marula is very expensive, but it's just a tree in the forest. So this is another tree in the forest that we are using, which an innovation hub is using to do a value chain. This is where science is answering people's needs. Where cattle and donkeys were getting drunk from this fruit, we can now make real stuff from it biotechnologically. Here, I'm showing you how we are delivering social justice with science. You see those donkeys there? They are in Mwenezi, which is like 100 kilometers from South Africa, from Beitbridge. That we built a factory to process marula. It was a National Biotechnology Authority which did that, and we are using 30,000 families to collect the fruit, to come with either with a pot or with a big jute sack or with a cart of donkeys to come, and we give them money, and they are contributing. Now they are contributing a scientific enterprise. That factory is working. This year alone, we produced about 100,000 liters of marula. This is how the configuration is leading to industrialization. I'm just giving an example of things that happened in the past 2-3 years. And we said people are doing cattle in this country. They want to eat, and this is the eating part. So with one of the universities, it is biotechnology. We are doing cattle artificial insemination stuff and doing reproductive technologies. And we are now able at that university, which is called Chinhoyi University of Technology, to produce 7 million semen straws annually. To contribute, because a university cannot be for nothing, no? For just professors with our funny heads and so forth, and walking majestically every graduation and sounding learned, and people are hungry. We went on to say, okay, you do medicinal feed. This is from research. It's now causing industrialization. We opened this factory sometime in the year in September. And we are doing goats as well in one of our universities at Lupane State University. You know, I'm talking about science in terms of food, goats. Sometimes people are very complicated. They're talking complicated stuff. People just need to eat. Just make your science be able to provide food on the table. And we went on, one of our agricultural investments, we did a massive irrigation scheme of wheat, 350 hectares, and they were producing 7 tons per hectare. By the way, Zimbabwe this year, because of that movement, is food self-sufficient in terms of wheat. We don't need to import a single grain of wheat. And we went on, and we are doing a lot of stuff in the south where we are doing cattle and so forth. I'm just trying to give an example. And we started a space agency, and people thought we were crazy. We are working, of course, with SANSA, but we formed our own at the beginning, and then we said, we are going to that. They said, this president is getting crazy. But last week on the 7th of December 2022, ZimSat-1 is in orbit. It's our first satellite. This is science that is aimed at doing something. Please, whenever you take a phone and phone your country, wherever it is, whether it's in Zimbabwe, you must know that it's going via satellite. So space technology is not out of this world. Whenever you are doing your WhatsApp, you must know that your WhatsApp is passing via satellite. So it's very important technology for peaceful purposes. Now, when we were met with COVID problem, Zimbabwe, you know, is a very small country. So we said, guys, but you say you are learned. Let's try to make oxygen. People will die. But anyway, we managed in the world. So we said we shall produce oxygen from our research. Now we are producing 50 tons of medical oxygen daily from nothing. And Zimbabwe requires 150 tons per month at peak. It means we can produce for Zimbabwe in 3 days. For the rest is for the rest of the region and those who need the oxygen. This is science in action for industrialization. That's all my point. That's what I'm trying to say. That if you have got people, no matter how good they are, if you don't configure them properly for a purpose, it won't happen. No matter how intelligent they are put to use through configuration. We ended up making even active ingredients from our herbs and so forth. We have got patented medicine. We are doing a lot of pathology diagnostics. We are putting science to use. And we are building specialist hospitals from universities. I'm just saying, what do you do with a changed education system? A changed education system to deliver a science that delivers social justice. This is what people need. We are building medical schools. This is what the scientists and academics have now decided to do in the small republic of Zimbabwe in their humble way to contribute to human needs, therefore to human justice. Therefore, to social justice. Justice is not talked about, it's delivered. People need food, people need water, people need shelter, people need all this. All conflicts are due to hunger. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Minister, for clarifying the role of science in making us all happy, basically. Thank you so much. So next up, as we release the panel that's on stage, let's give them a round of applause, please, for their contributions.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much again for those inspiring discussions. I just want to check with the colleagues at the back, is the connection with Brussels ready? Because we're a bit late and the Commissioner is waiting to speak to us. Can you just perhaps go and ask them if they... Sorry. Yeah. Colleagues, as you know, we will be joined live, direct. It's not a pre-recorded video by the European Commissioner for Research, Innovation and Science, Maria Gabriel. So with apologies that we just take 20 seconds of your time. So, Tapelo, can you just indicate if the line is there, because otherwise we'll proceed with the rest of the program. Yeah, they can say. In waiting for the link for Brussels to be made, we're going to invite the panelists for the next session. It's not really a panel. This is going to be a very brief, just feedback on some of the exciting side events we've had over the past week. So whilst we make the link with Brussels, Mampe is going to call the colleagues to the stage.
Thank you, DDG. So I'd like to introduce the next session, Inspiring the Future. It's mostly a youth-led session, based on the activities that took place in the week preceding the World Science Forum. I'll just call them up, and if we get connection to Brussels, I will then introduce the roles that they have played. Mendi Makubela. Unamex Mwangu. Caitlin Barron. Lihle Sabisa. And Dr. Kevin Govender. All right, I will just introduce the roles that they've played, and if we get a signal from the back, we will connect to Brussels. So this year, esteemed delegates, we have had 14 youth volunteers sponsored by the National Youth Service, who are STEM unemployed graduates placed in science institutions across the country, receiving a stipend of 5,000 rands a month, and they volunteered their time to join us at the forum this week. And we have a representative, Ms. Mendi Makubela, who will speak about her experiences during the week. We also have had the UNESCO SADC STEM Bootcamp, which saw 250 high school learners being trained on artificial intelligence, machine learning, and robotics, supported by the Western Cape Education Department, by the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund, and by UNESCO and SADC. And we have 50 of them here today to showcase the robots that they have designed during the last 4 days. And we have 2 of the young ones with us this morning. Professor Kevin Govender will just celebrate with us the legacy of Professor Carolina Ottman Govender in a tribute to her. So that is what will constitute the discussions or the inputs in the next few minutes. Are we ready to connect to Brussels? Yes, so let us take that. So next up then we have the message from the European Commissioner for Innovation, Research, Culture and Education and Youth, Ms. Maria Gabriel. Let's give her a round of applause, please. Ms. Gabriela, can you hear us? Can you please unmute us at the back? Are you able to hear us, Ms. Gabriel? Seems like we have a little bit of a connection challenge, but we are getting it sorted. All right, please do indicate, but we will continue the program and call on stage Ms. Mendy Makubela, who's representing the youth volunteers.
To the partnering organizations, the DSI, the NRF SASTA, our ministry delegates, the youth at large, and ladies and gentlemen, good day. It's quite an honor and a privilege to have been selected out of all the unemployed graduates that are present in this country to stand in front of you today and share my experience with the World Science Forum. So we received an email and we were asked to fill in what is it that you want to contribute towards the World Science Forum. And we did that. Our mentors had to represent us as well. It was rather a shocking experience to realize that out of all 200 of us, only 14 were chosen, 2 per province. So we've been exploring Cape Town, we've been doing excursions, we've been exposed to sciences, we've been quite privileged to be at the receiving end of engaging with scientists from different countries. And thank you. We've had the honor of interacting with different people from different sessions. We've learned different sciences and what it means to be actually a researcher, because we are still growing, we are still learning. However, we've also realized something. This goes to the organizers. It's a plea that I was given from my fellow youth that the following World Science Forum, please include the youth on these panels. Again, the plea goes to the DSI NRF SASTA, that please let this not be the only forum we are invited to. Involve us in all the researches, the sciences you're doing out there. We are willing to learn, we are determined and dedicated, and we do have ideas, and we are the future of South Africa. Lastly, it goes to all researchers who are present here. Please, please, please absorb one graduate within your field. Teach them. It's not easy, it's difficult being a graduate and unemployed. I do not want to dwell much on the excursions we've had because I won't end now. And with respect to time, I'd then like to say we thank you for choosing us, and let it be not the first of last. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mendy, and I think we have heard you. The researchers that are here have heard you loud and clear. If we are ready to connect to Brussels, I'd like to now hand over to Ms. Maria Gabriel. If you are able to hear us, Ms. Gabriel, you can continue. If not, I would like us to continue then with the rest of the program and call on stage Mr. Unam Max and Ms. Kathleen Brown. They represent the 250 learners who are part of the UNESCO SADC STEM Bootcamp. Please come on stage.
Good day to everyone. I'm Caitlin Baron from JJ Maiden. I would like to start off by saying thank you to all the stakeholders and the partners that made all this happen. We thank WCD, SADC, DBE, DSI, UNESCO, UWC, and the Nelson Mandela Children's Foundation. I will hand over to Unam to start off of all the activities that we have done through this past few days.
Good day to everyone. My name is Unam Max Mwangu. I'm from Masimamani Secondary School. So we've been invited this week to the STEM bootcamp, in which we actually did a lot of activities, starting off with 3D printing. So actually, whereby in 3D printing, we had to actually design our own designs, 3D in a computer, and then we actually printed them out in the machine, which actually melted and molded plastic in front of our very eyes. So even though we couldn't all actually print out designs, it was actually very fascinating to see the technology behind it.
For the other activity that we had done was robotics. We formed teams and made companies. Within these companies, we had to come up with problems and make solutions for them using the Clawbot we had built ourselves. We programmed this Clawbot to do a variety of different activities, such as picking up objects and moving it. As you can see there, if you can't see it, this here. The Clawbot we had built.
Moving on, we also had a physics class whereby we worked with electrical circuits. So we basically took the theory and we did it practical, whereby we were taught to actually build our own circuits, parallel and series, and we actually observed what happens in the changes in our voltage, current, resistance, and the brightness of the bulbs. It was interesting to see, and then we also actually learned about Ohm's law, whereby it provided a lesson no classroom ever could.
For chemistry, we had learned and did experiments. The first experiment was using methylated spirits to make ethanol through the process of distillation. The second experiment, we tested how acidic or basic a liquid is using litmus paper and a pH scale.
Lastly, we went into our biology class, whereby we actually studied respiration, anaerobic and aerobic respiration. Aerobic actually requiring oxygen, the presence of oxygen to actually respire. So what we did was an experiment whereby we checked, we mostly focused on anaerobic respiration, whereby we checked what happens to the unicellular microorganism, which is yeast, when it actually meets with the glucose to actually create ethanol. Also, we actually mixed it in a vial, whereby we also broke down glucose to actually form carbon dioxide and ethanol.
And ending it off, with all these, we have learned a lot of things about science and technology and how we can use them to improve the world and our future. I appreciate the experience, and I'll try and implement these things I learned in this bootcamp to improve my own and others' lives.
Coming from a township school, Masibambane, this was a great opportunity. Even though many schools couldn't actually come here, we're very fortunate that we actually called here. We had a chance to actually use new facilities, new equipment, in which our school, we never actually got a chance to. So we're actually very grateful because even in this STEM bootcamp, we can actually see that UNESCO provided us with the best facilitators as possible from around the world. For instance, Mr. Collins from Liberia, Ms. Miriam Polo from Colombia, and Mr. Connor Williams, an IT specialist, and many more. We're very grateful for the opportunity, and it actually changed all of our lives. I feel like my career going into science has been solidified, and this was an amazing experience. It was priceless. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Unam and Kathleen. Please note that at the exhibition area, more of these robots that were designed by the youth will be displayed today. Are we able to connect to Ms. Maria? All right. Next up, we have Dr. Kevin Govender, who's the director of the International Astronomical Union, IAU, which is the Office of Development of Astronomy Development. If you can come through, please, Kevin.
Just a short introduction to Kevin. Of course, we are very proud to host the World Science Forum in South Africa, but when you do something, you build on a foundation. And for us here in South Africa, One of those foundations is the Science Forum South Africa, which many of you would know and would have had the privilege to participate in. And what we'll be doing today, and why I've invited Kevin to speak, is because we want to honor the memory of someone very special, someone very dear to many of us, but specifically to Kevin, who unfortunately is not with us today, even though we had conceptualized and planned this with her. And we therefore wanted to honor her, but also ask Kevin to share in his very unique and own way the very special message that science is about people, science is about humanity, science is about feelings, and science is about bringing us together. Kevin.
Sure, done. Is the sound okay? Yeah? Okay. You can have a slide. He had to go and say all this. I thought I wasn't going to cry this time, so let's see if I can make it through. This is an image from the James Webb Space Telescope, and I thought I had to start with a little bit of astronomy. In this image, it's a piece of sky about the size. Oh, can you guys? It's about the size of a sand grain held at arm's length. That's that tiny piece of sky. And in that, all the little spots you see are galaxies. And each of the galaxies has hundreds of billions of stars in them. And each of those stars could have planets around them. Now imagine the entire sky and how much stuff there's out there. Astronomy is about exploring. It's about exploring the universe. It's about pushing the limits of our knowledge and understanding. It's about pushing our technology. And this is it's a humbling field, but it's also a field that inspires. It inspires us because when you guys go outside tonight and you see the moon, think of this image. When you go home, think of that JWST image, the tiny sand grain size of sky, how much stuff there is out there. When you see a star, when you see a sunrise or a sunset, it's something we all are exposed to. You don't need a big telescope to appreciate our place in the universe. And this is what brought Carolina and I together. Catherine showed this slide in one of the earlier plenaries. This was the International Year of Astronomy. And we tried to spread this message around the world, to inspire people to think about our place in the universe and to really appreciate who we are, to change our perspective. And I'm privileged to be amongst all the young people here, maybe because we worked a lot with very young people. And it's our work that brought us together. This earth ball is something that Carolina made famous. It's something that sparked a love for each other based on the love of science and development, and the marriage between science and development. From that love came children, who knew? But what was the interesting thing about it was that we discovered that when we had kids, it's like our capacity to love increased. When our first child came, the capacity to love doubled. And the second boy came, the capacity quadrupled. And this is the human nature, is that we have this capacity to love. We are all human. People might wonder why I'm dressed like this. I thought I'd wear the suit I wore when we got married. Firstly, because she would have loved to see me back in this, but also because I wanted to show you that I might look like this, but I am African. She might look like that. She might, she might have Swedish descent. I might have Indian descent. But first and foremost, we are African. Why are we African? Because we believe in Ubuntu. We believe in the spirit and kindness of respecting our fellow people. And you are African too. Himla mentioned in the opening, welcome home. This is the cradle of humankind. And you can be African. Embrace the culture, embrace the respect for people. In this World Science Forum has brought together many people. And Carolina used to say, the ordinary nature of interaction should not blind us to the fact that there's a human on the other side. Every time we talk about collaborations, we must not forget that there are people on the other side. We had a brilliant social event last night and many social events this week. Why do we have these social events? It's to bond us. But when you look at this image, when you look around you, look at people and know that everyone has a story. I'm telling our story, but everyone has a story. Each one of the people you interact with has a story because we are human, and that is the bond that we have. Now imagine Carolina fought a very aggressive, very painful cancer, right? She really struggled, but she managed to get through because of love of our love within our family, but not just love. It was science. She even, in the process, she would figure out ways to handle the symptoms and things, and she blogged about it. We're trying to keep a legacy going with all the things that she's done, because she was a scientist. But it was love, and it was a happy mind that she said, a happy mind can be the difference between possible and impossible. Imagine if we apply this to the planet. Imagine if we apply this to our science, that we don't just use science, but that we use compassion, that we use kindness. Imagine how this world will be if we saw it not like this, but like this. We used to talk about, we used to do all these activities with kids, right? And we used to use this, and we used to say, which way is up? Because in space, which way is up? Is it the global north or the global south? Who are we as Africans? And what is our place in the universe? If we embraced the idea that is contained in this draft declaration that's going to be committed, remember what it says about the values. We must commit for our actions to be guided by the values of Ubuntu. Engage while you are in South Africa, while you are on the African continent. Engage with what Ubuntu means. Because at the end of the day, we're all people. And when I came to this forum, I didn't think I was going to make it. She passed away on the 15th of November. And I've been just showered in love and kindness from all the people we knew. And she would have been here bouncing off the wall. You guys would have loved her. She would have been all over the place, right? And many people that knew her for this. But why does kindness have to be something that we give? She said, kindness shouldn't be a gesture. It should be a baseline. If we make kindness the baseline of our science, the baseline of our interactions with each other, regardless of our diversity, then we will make this environment a much friendlier place for all scientists to flourish. So, as you guys say goodbye and leave, sure, that picture. As you guys say goodbye and leave Cape Town, leave South Africa, leave the African continent, remember that we're all human. And if we can embrace our science as human beings, then the voice for science will be heard much better. Because people will see us as people, as humans. Engage with your colleagues. And when we go out and you look at your colleagues, don't just look at them. Look at them. Because look into people's eyes, because every one of us has a story to tell, and it's the stories beyond our science that drive us. So with that, thank you very much, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Kevin, for that moving tribute. So I did a little mistake earlier. Apologies. We skipped one of our youths who is going to report on the Citizens for Clean Air run. As you come forward, Lihle, the youth did a 10-kilometer run on Saturday, 2 routes, 1 Sea Point, 1 Khayelitsha, collecting air quality data. and they're going to report the results today. Let's welcome Lihle, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for this opportunity to address you today. My name is Lihle Sabisa. I am a final year student at the University of the Western Cape. I am studying Bachelor of Science in Environmental and Water Sciences. The Citizens for Clean Air, which I will share with you today, is Urban Better initiative and is in collaboration with these partners. The Citizens for Clean Air campaign aims to amplify youth voices with advocacy on air pollution, climate, and health, using citizen scientist data generated by young people. This QR code, which is outside the lollipops, and also my colleague distributed the QR code, has more information. What if access to health-enabling, climate-resilient environments in cities was a central guiding principle of all urban development? What if African youth led the way in reimagining cities as places that protect health? These questions have shaped the Citizens for Clean Air, and I will bring these questions again. What did we do? Young people in Cape Town, Accra, and in Lagos were invited to apply to be citizen scientists, and I was lucky enough to be one of those who were selected in Cape Town. I will show you in the next pictures what we did in Cape Town, and it was also done in Lagos and in Accra. I attended a 2-day workshop with 7 other run leaders in Cape Town. During this workshop, we learned about the links between air pollution, climate, and health. This made me realize that air pollution is also a social justice issue. You may ask why. Because while we all breathe air, the quality of air is different in all parts of the city. I learned about the significant harms to health, as well as the economic impacts of ill health due to air pollution. For example, did you know in Africa, the economic cost of outdoor air pollution is over $200 billion. I also realized that there was insufficient measurement of air quality. This experience made me even more determined to explore the roles that I can play. We use this wearable air quality sensor and the Urban Better Citizen mobile app to capture geocoded data and media files. By the end of the workshop, we designed running routes and we were equipped with skills to recruit people. And of course, we got some t-shirt swag, as you can see in the pictures. On 30 July, we led 7 different runs in Cape Town, from Sea Point, Woodstock, to Rondebosch, Khayelitsha, and Kalk Bay. I led a run in Bellville and recruited 22 young people to join me on the run to collect data on air quality. The data stories we generated both from sensors and the app were integrated on our interactive data app. We could compare our data, so we could compare our data. We had 2 more runs in Cape Town to run in solidarity with citizen scientists in Lagos, Accra, and we even got the mayor of Cape Town, Mr. Hill Lewis, to join one of the runs. And that's me on the picture with him. The point is not just to run and not just to collect data, but to apply the data we generated to inform advocacy. Based on this experience, we developed a 2-page brief. You can access a full report using the QR codes that are outside. The report included a 3-point call to action for decision makers, which include the need for a network of low-cost sensors. We went down. We took this message to COP27, and I joined other citizen scientists from Lagos and in Accra. Here's some of the highlights of COP. In our fight for social justice, we joined other climate and health activists in protest to highlight the importance of science-based approach to tackle air pollution. And finally, this brings us to the World Science Forum. And some of you may know, on the 3rd of December, we ran 2 clean air runs, and particularly grateful to the Department of Science and Innovation for the collaboration. My fellow run leader, Kiara, and I led runs in Greenpoint and in Khayelitsha. We applied the advocacy skills we learned to explain why we are running and why air pollution is a social justice issue, and our roles as citizen scientists. What did we find? On the morning of the run in both Greenpoint and in Khayelitsha, air quality measured by NO2 and PM2.5 range from good, which is green, as you can see from the picture, and to moderate, which is yellow. And when we zoom in into the media that was captured, for example, this health benefit was captured in Greenpoint. In Khayelitsha, a health benefit was proper management of waste, avoiding waste that contributes to, avoiding burning waste that contributes to air pollution, and cars were identified as the source of air pollution. I promised you again that I'm going to show you this slide. I hope through my talk I have shown that this is not only possible, but it is feasible and already underway. We believe that Africa can lead the world in leveraging the power of science and of youth to tackle society's grand challenges such as air pollution, for health justice and climate justice, and for the Africa we deserve. It is a privilege to be part of this growing movement and participate for social justice. I can assure you we are only beginning. So I invite you to aspire, inspire, and conspire with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As we conclude this session, can we just give them a round of applause as they exit the stage?
Thank you very much. This may well be different for those of you who've been to previous World Science Forum, but we felt we can't have a forum on the theme of science for social justice if we do not make absolutely sure this is an inclusive enterprise with everyone involved and with a real intent and real legacy. So thank you for the youth and everyone else for sharing their experiences. If you enjoy this forum and want to come back for another event, we hope you will. Hopefully we don't have to wait that long, but we also wanted to announce that in 2024, South Africa will be hosting the Annual General Assembly of the International Astronomical Union here in Cape Town. It's the world's biggest gathering of astronomers. Astronomy was an important theme during this forum, so we will just have a very brief snapshot of what will be happening in 2024. The video, please.
We grew up under the stars, our shared skies, connected. In my memories, starlight shimmered off still lakes to create endless African night skies. Inspiration came from the teachings of our mothers, fathers, teachers, role models, where our rich cultural heritage was interwoven with a budding scientific understanding. Our astronomy journey had begun. In Africa, we grew. The animals, the people, the infrastructure, our culture. In school, we learned what it was to be an astronomer. We gathered our knowledge and strove to break new ground. We challenged and learned and built. And our understanding reached new heights, driving our endless curiosity for the unknown. Today, Africa rises to share our knowledge with the world. We innovate, connect, constantly pushing boundaries. We understand we have one world to live in and strive for a sustainable future for all, inclusive and in touch with our environment. Because Ubuntu, we are all one. We are all Africa. And we welcome you.
We look forward to see you in 2024, but actually well before. First of all, we again apologize for the technical difficulties, which made a live link to Brussels difficult. The Commissioner Gabriel also apologizes, and a written copy of his statement is going to be made available this afternoon on the World Science Forum website. And indeed, we greatly appreciate the Commissioner's personal support, as well as that of the European Commission. Several of their officials were present here this week, so we apologize that we couldn't have the Commissioner speaking to us live. We now come to the very last, but certainly not the least important, perhaps the most important part of our proceedings, where we will have our concluding addresses, but hopefully also, because this depends on you, whether we adopt the World Science Forum Declaration on Science for Social Justice. Now, for this segment, I would in the first instance like to invite on stage Ms. Palesa Motsoeneng and Mr. Tapelo Kepadisa, who are two young, proud South African public servants who have been intimately involved in the preparation of this forum. They're going to help us to present the draft declaration, because until it is adopted, it very much remains draft. Then it also gives my pleasure to invite someone who certainly without this forum would not have been possible, and that is Professor Thomas Freund, President of the Hungarian Academy of Sciences and co-chair of the World Science Forum 22 Steering Committee. Professor Freund, please. And again, much appreciation for all your support. And then it is really my honor to also invite Mr. Buti Manimela. He is South Africa's Deputy Minister Manimela, responsible for higher education, science and innovation. I was also supported us with his strategic advice and guidance throughout the preparation of the forum, and who will be officiating this afternoon for the South African government. Deputy Minister Manimela, please. So, dear forum participants, in the first instance, you'll recall that on Monday, or rather it's a Tuesday night, when we spoke, and we had announced that the draft text, the first draft text of the declaration, was going to be made available on the World Science Forum website. That indeed was done, and we were not quite sure what to expect, if people would have time to go and look at the text. But you did, because we received more than 70, and that's 70 quality contributions. And there were others which were relevant, but perhaps we could take note of. So there were more than 70 contributions which we had to consider, seek to incorporate into the draft text. I mean, the assignment we had from the steering committee, from Professor Freund and also Director General Majwaga, was to make the declaration shorter, but that proved an impossible task, and those of us who were drafting actually failed in that mission, because the final product is slightly longer. But there was so much rich material suggestions that we simply could not keep it shorter. So we've been working, and I would really like to acknowledge here someone who has perhaps not been acknowledged, and I would ask that you join me in applauding him. Many of you know him, Gergely Bohm from Nangere Academy of Sciences, who's really provided the mainstay secretarial support, not only for the drafting of the declaration, but for much more. So Gergely, thank you very much. We certainly value everything you've done. Yeah. So we are now happy to present to you the draft text. This was validated yesterday by a final steering committee meeting, which was chaired by Professor Freund and Director General Bajwaga. So we are going to present it to you. Nothing will happen, and then it will, during the address of Deputy Minister Manamela, when he will be asking you if you agree that we adopt this declaration. So I'm going to invite my colleagues Tapelo and Palesa to present the draft text to us. Please, colleagues.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, good afternoon, Dumelang. It is indeed social for justice, because this is an opportunity for me to be standing here in front of you, in front of the world. I thank you. I will start reading the declaration. Declaration of the 10th World Science Forum, Science for Social Justice. Text adopted on the 9th December 2022, Cape Town, South Africa. Preamble. With the encouragement and support of the partner organizations for the World Science Forum, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, the International Science Council, the Hungarian Academy of Sciences, the American Association for the Advancement of Science, the World Academy of Science for the Advancement of Science in Developing Countries, the Inter-Academy Partnership, and the European Academies Science Advisory Council, as well as our host, the South African Department of Science and Innovation. We participants for the 10th World Science Forum, held from 6 to 9 December 2022 in Cape Town, South Africa, adopt the present declaration. The World Science Forum, an outcome of the 1999 World Conference on Science, in a biennial event that since 2003 has been successfully assembling scientists, policymakers, industry leaders, civil society, and the media to discuss the role of science in meeting global challenges. In line with the recommendations of the 1999 World Conference on Science and the use of scientific knowledge, and taking into account the 2011 Budapest Declaration on the New Era of Global Science, the 2018 Rio de Janeiro Declaration on Science for Global Sustainable Development, the 2015 Budapest Declaration on the Enabling Power of Science, the 2017 Jordan Declaration on Science for Peace, and the 2019 Budapest Declaration on Science, Ethics, Responsibility. We reaffirm our commitment to the rigorous and ethical conduct of scientific research and free and responsible use of scientific knowledge for sustainable development. Okay. On number 1, for social justice, responsible and opportunity and commitment, with humility being confronted by the global challenges such as pandemic diseases, climate change, food security, biodiversity, loss, conflict, immigration, and persistent poverty. Science, more than ever, is called upon to make critical contribution to create a more equal, fair, and just world, and to set an ambitious agenda to ensure a better future for generations to come. This This call for action is informed the choices of, I quote, Science for Social Justice, close quote, as a theme for the WSF 2022, responsibility for all concerned with and involved in the scientific enterprises.
Thank you. Our text continue to read as follows. Social injustice as a major cause of global insecurity, as evidenced by increased geopolitical conflict and tension and strained international solidarity. Increasing scourges of society, such as widespread violence, loss of social mobility, exploitation of various social groups, discrimination and exclusion, including mental health challenges for many, have their roots in social injustice. Science must assume a greater role in addressing and reversing these damaging dynamics, and do so through an intersectional lens. Discussion at the forum identified several possibilities for science to play a more decisive role in ensuring resources, opportunities, and benefits in society are accessible and are distributed in a fair manner. This declaration sets out the commitment by the forum participants to meet this responsibility and seizes the opportunity for the production and application of knowledge to challenge inequality, marginalization, environmental destruction, climate disruption, and other forms of social injustice. We, therefore, commit for our action to be guided by the values of Ubuntu, that is respecting the universal bond of sharing that connects all humanity, as well as by human rights principles and standards, and to working together to harness the power of science to achieve the ambitions of the Sustainable Development Goals, which underpins social justice. We also undertake in our respective spheres of influence and responsibility for our policy and decision-making with regard to the advancement of social justice to be guided by informed, robust scientific data, evidence, and advice. We will prioritize efforts to support and support the translation of research results through both technological and social innovation to be applied for the benefit of all society in support of social justice. We will safeguard, nourish, promote the unique ability of science to inspire progress, to foster tolerance, to unite, and to care for the vulnerable through concerted public engagement and communication action, building awareness and understanding of the role of science in supporting of social justice.
Science for human dignity. What role for science is in fighting poverty, unemployment, inequality, and exclusion? All individuals and groups have the right to be respected and hold a special value tied solely to their humanity. Human dignity across our world is diminished by poor socio-economic conditions, denying opportunity, and increasing exclusion. We call for science funding agencies to foster a step change towards the interdisciplinary, multi-scale, and inclusive research agendas, informing pathways to greater equality, and to develop a global science agenda concertedly focused on poverty alleviation. We commit our efforts to support it. We acknowledge the important role of science in ensuring advancement technologies, create opportunity, and do not managerialize anyone. We underscore the importance of ethical scientific endeavors and will strive for our actions to be informed by international agreements such as the recommendation on the ethics of artificial intelligence of UNESCO that aims at guiding technological developments to deliver inclusive, sustainable, and fair outcomes. We call for increased investment in education and science, recognizing that basic science as declared by the International Year of Basic Science for Sustainable Development, constitutes the foundations of future innovations, economic prosperity, and society strengthened by solidarity and democracy. We call for renewed support for the social sciences and humanities, as these disciplines play a vital role in understanding social challenges, including the role of harm reduction science, which informs greater empathy for people with addictions, helping us to shape a more equal and inclusive world.
Science for climate justice. How can science working with civil society lead the way in correcting the failure of climate policy? The 27th Conference of Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, that is COP27, re-emphasized the urgency for science to deliver for our planet and all its people in supporting climate action. We agree with the conclusion of the Inter-Academic Partnership Communique on global green recovery, that at this unprecedented inflection point, we need to seek low-carbon socio-economic pathways to protect and promote human health and enhance the prospects for an equitable recovery compatible with commitments in the Paris Climate Agreement. Indeed, it is clear that tackling climate change can provide health co-benefits for all evidence, all evidence in the report of the Inter-Academic Partnership on health in the climate energy, a global perspective. Our world requires a deliberate and renewed partnership between science and civil society, ensuring a science agenda that will enable just transition. Science must be at the heart of all transformative mitigation and adaptive agenda, with particular emphasis on the need of developing countries and underprivileged communities that are most vulnerable. This will require a closer and more productive partnership between the natural sciences and social sciences and the humanities. The science community must ensure that scientific research, modeling, innovation feature prominently in discussion on investment to combat and mitigate climate change, particularly with regard to the loss of the loss and damage budget, so that the voice of science is not lost to political and economic interests. We call for the reinforcement of the participation of civil society in the shaping of the global science agenda for climate justice. We will ensure the representation, inclusion, and protection of the rights of those most vulnerable to the effects of climate change. We commit to the principles enshrined in the UNESCO Declaration on the Ethics of Climate Change. We urge investment in science solutions that promote equity, assure access to basic resources, and ensure that future generations can live, learn, play, and work in a healthy and clean environment. In this regard, we recognize the recommendation on the AIP report on global health inequalities, research for the fair future. We acknowledge the importance of support for technology transfer to skills development in the scientific collaboration with the developing countries in support of climate action. We recognize that we need for advancing a just climate transition. Rather, we are cognizant that what we need for advancing a just climate transition is knowledge about values, decision-making, behavioral change, underpinned not only by the natural sciences and technology, but also by strong support for social and human sciences. We recognize that our children will bear the brunt of climate breakdown, ecosystem collapse, and the ravages of forced migration, we therefore commit to put the best interest of future generations at the very center of our science, policy, research program, and social justice agenda.
Number 3, Science for Africa and the World, how to unleash the potential of African science in global cooperation. At the national, regional, and continental level, an African agenda for science, technology, and innovation to respond to social justice is emerging. This is also a resource for the world, as responding decisively to global challenges require an inclusive global response. The full and effective participation by African scientists and by other developing country scientists in global science is therefore imperative. We call for global science programs, including the frontier sciences and those traditionally dominated by developed countries, to be more inclusive and for those framework conditions which may discourage the active participation of especially African scientists to be addressed. We acknowledge and celebrate the excellence and achievement of African science as a resource for humanity. We recognize that more could be done by African and other developing world nations to support sciences, including accelerating their efforts to achieve their own commitments to increase investment in science, technology, and innovation. We support continued investment in capacity building, programs for African science, including research infrastructure, partnership, researcher mobility, and training schemes, and other cooperation instruments. We support the creation of Pan-African technological innovation hubs to cooperate with other research organizations, to foster inclusive and sustainable research practices, effective addressing the needs of civil society. We call for international collaboration schemes that make sure that investment made in science by developing countries with special emphasis on training of researchers is perceived and shall not become unwarranted by alarming trends of brain drain.
Science for diplomacy. How can science reboot multilateralism and global solidarity? Science diplomacy is a valuable instrument of bringing nations and people together, focusing attention on our shared challenges, which can only be addressed by our joint efforts. Surpassing political differences, with multilateralism under threat and global insecurity contributing to increased polarization, the investment in international science collaboration enabled by multilateral programs and other partnerships is more important than ever. We acknowledge the importance of science diplomacy as an instrument for peace and call for the values of science to inspire a great commitment to global collaboration and solidarity. We urge the global science diplomacy community to enshrine continuity in its internal and external engagement structures, and to ensure that changing political and multilateral environments do not hamper its ability to communicate and advise. We call for investment in researcher mobility programs, especially for young scientists, to build people-to-people relations as a response to increased geopolitical tension and insecurity. We call for the reinforcement of the role of science as an enabler for collaboration within multilateral programs and to strengthen especially the institutions of the United Nations and their role in this.
Number 5, in justice science, how to ensure science reflects the society we want. Science should not only advance social justice, it should be inspired and identified by the values of social science, such as greater transparency and inclusivity. This will require a renewed commitment on open science and research integrity. Working to renew, improve the scientific enterprise will also transform society and advance humanity. We recognize the need for scientific enterprise to evolve to make it more responsive to the needs of society without neglecting our commitment to invest in the basic sciences as an investment in the future. We reaffirm our determination to advance science as global public good and accept our mutual responsibility to ensure the free and responsible conduct of science. We call for a greater inclusive in science, systematic and concerted efforts to eliminate gender and racial imbalances in the scientific enterprise and remedies for inclusive, which denies opportunity for full participation in science. We also urge for concrete and impactful actions that contributes to reducing the gender gap in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We recognize the crucial role of early career scientists in advancing science for social justice and therefore call for enhanced support for their career development and engagement in science policymaking, including support for the Global Young Academy and National Young Academies. We stress the importance of the UNESCO recommendation on science and scientific researchers, which promotes human rights, inclusivity, freedom, and responsibility in science to guide the response to this declaration. We acknowledge the importance of UNESCO recommendation on open science and call for support for its impact, especially the advanced objectives related to open science and open data. We accept our mutual responsibility to ensure integrity and respect for the ethical conduct for science. We commit to respond decisively to the science for social justice, call on action as set out in this declaration.
This will be the end of the text, and we will hand over to the program director. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Palesa and Tapelo. That was not an easy task, but you acquitted yourself well from it, not only in the organization of this forum, but also presenting to this audience what is our collective recommendations. Ladies and gentlemen, as we now conclude with the program, it is my honor and privilege to introduce South Africa's Deputy Minister for Higher Education, Science and Innovation, Deputy Minister Buti Manamela, for his closing address. And during his closing address, if you agree, we will then indeed adopt the World Science Forum Declaration on Science for Social Justice. Deputy Minister, please.
Thank you, Program Director, our DDG, who has been quite instrumental in ensuring that this forum becomes a success. Co-chairs of the World Science Forum 2022 Steering Committee, our Minister Dr. Blayton Nzimande, who is the Minister of Higher Education, Science and Innovation, and Professor Thomas Freund, President of the Hungarian Academy of Sciences, ministers of partner countries of the World Science Forum, representatives of the Diplomatic Corps, leadership of the World Science Forum partner organizations, delegates to the 2022 World Science Forum, distinguished guests. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and privilege to deliver these closing remarks to the 10th World Science Forum. As the President of our Republic, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, stated during the official opening, this 10th edition of the World Science Forum is a first on the African continent. Over time, the World Science Forum has evolved to become an important global platform for critical reflection and action on some of the most urgent challenges facing humanity. It is for this reason that we feel immensely privileged to have been chosen to host the 10th edition of this important forum. We just concluded a highly successful forum, which was characterized by high-caliber presentations and incisive debates on a number of key issues that face humanity. This outcome has made possible by, amongst others, the leadership and support of our government and international partners, and the active participation of you, all forum participants coming from diverse backgrounds and representing diverse sectors. Our gratitude goes to South Africa's head of state, our president, whose input enhanced our understanding of the importance of this forum for our continent and the world. I'm confident that when we report back to the President on the outcomes of this forum, we would also be able to say that the forum has responded positively and decisively to the challenges that he highlighted. To be specific, I think he highlighted about 5 challenges and questions that he hoped that this forum will respond to. And I think listening to the declaration, we have gone quite a long way in addressing some of those challenges that our President highlighted. Our gratitude also goes to our Minister, who for his leadership in ensuring the hosting of this historic gathering. We appreciate also the support by Dr. Shamila Ney-Bedole, Assistant Director General of Natural Sciences at UNESCO, and also Professor Sir Peter Glackham, President of the International Science Council, and Dr. Sudeep Parikh, CEO of the American Association for the Advancement of Science. I hope I haven't butchered any of the surnames with my paddy tongue. Our gratitude also goes to our various esteemed guest speakers who enriched our understanding of a number of scientific topics and issues facing humanity. The world we live in today is more interconnected than what it was a century ago. This interconnectivity was made possible by science, and in particular, the breathtaking advances in the area of information and communication technologies. With this interconnectivity comes both opportunity and risk. The opportunities include the variety of platforms available for the exchange of useful scientific information at a much faster speed than what was possible centuries ago. The risks that arise from the interconnectivity of our world include transnational violence, transnational data theft, and of course, the emergence and spread of pandemics, as we've seen with the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic. It is this reality of our global contemporary context that informed the choice of the theme for this 10th edition of the World Science Forum, which, as you know, Science for Social Justice. One of the implications of this theme is that in the context of our contemporary reality, science and scientists cannot afford to confine themselves to the dictate of their respective disciplines. Science and scientists must appreciate the intersectional nature of the problems that face humanity in the 21st century, and they must possess a social consciousness. In essence, there is a greater need for activist scientists today. You would have therefore noticed that in curating the various thematic areas for this forum, there was deliberateness to ensure that the discussion themes are multi and interdisciplinary, and therefore collaboration amongst scientists, but also collaboration broadly by scientists is going to be crucial for us to move forward. Arising from the main theme and thematic areas of the 10th edition of the World Science Forum, there is a legitimate public expectation that, as an outcome, this edition of the World Science Forum must provide greater clarity on what policy responses we must provide to some of the most urgent global challenges. These are challenges such as poverty and inequality, food insecurity, poor access to health care, education and safety for children, access to land and clean water, climate change, drug and human trafficking, transnational violence and displacement of population, human rights violations, global health issues, and natural disaster. This basically sums up what we mean by science for social justice, but it also speaks to the heart of what science should be for: service to the people. In anticipation of this public expectation, the members of the Steering Committee for World Science Forum 2022 dedicated inordinate amount of time and effort to conceptualizing and refining the declaration of the 10th edition of the World Science Forum. And I hope it has met all of our expectations. It is therefore my singular honor to now introduce the formal adoption of the World Science Forum Declaration, Science for Social Justice. We hope this declaration will inspire greater collaboration and complementarity between scientists and policymakers. Should we be in agreement with the declaration and its call for action, and I must caution that some disagreement will lead to delays in lunch, please join me in applause as we unanimously adopt the declaration and its call for action. Thank you. The World Science Forum Declaration of Science for Social Justice is therefore adopted. And thank you and congratulations. The actual work starts now. We also believe that this declaration will also serve as a tool to assess the progress we would have made by the 11th World Science Forum when it meets in 2024. We wish you all a safe journey and travel back to your different destination. And I hope you enjoyed the hospitality that we dished out throughout the weekend since you arrived here. And enjoy the rest of your stay in South Africa, those who are staying longer. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for visiting.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister, for leading us in the adoption of the World Science Forum Declaration, but also for that inspirational remarks which will now encourage and guide our responding to the action. The Deputy Minister also mentioned that we will meet again, that there will be an 11th World Science Forum, and then for the final address and to announce the next World Science Forum, it gives me great pleasure to invite Professor Thomas Freund.
Dear Deputy Minister, Buti Manamela, Your Excellencies, dear participants of the World Science Forum 2022, after such an immensely successful forum and an exhaustive closing ceremony, I only have 3 important tasks to complete, short tasks, I promise, as co-chair of WSF 2022. The first is to express my most sincere acknowledgements. First of all, to the Republic of South Africa for hosting this momentous event, and especially to my fellow co-chair, Minister Blade Nzimande, who took all the responsibility for this forum to happen, and all the partner organizations and steering committee members of WSF, whose guidance and support was essential for this success. But this conference would not have taken place without the immense efforts outstanding skills and hard work of Mr. Dan du Toit and his excellent team at the Department of Science and Innovation, led by Mrs. Mampei Chaba. Let's give them an applause too. May I also add that this forum has been an excellent example for cooperation already at the preparation phase, but also in its delivery between the Ministry of Science and Innovation of South Africa and the Hungarian Academy of Sciences. For this reason, let me also thank the work of 3 of my colleagues at the Hungarian Academy, Gergely Böhm, who many of you may know from the previous events of WSF, as the co-chair of the organizing committee. Let's give him an applause too. Katalin Fodor, who for health reasons could not be here with us today, but even from Budapest, she has been working hard to make sure that this event is going to run smoothly as possible. And her colleague, Petra Kakuk, who has become an integral member of the local organizing committee in the past few weeks. Professor Himla Sudyal reminded us that our species, Homo sapiens sapiens, was born near here, thus she welcomed us all at home. And I can confirm that indeed we all felt at home in Cape Town, thanks to the organizers as well as the local scientific community and the people of South Africa in general. We are truly grateful for this warm reception. The theme of this forum, Science for Social Justice, will shine through any theme that will be chosen for future WSFs, which ensures that this forum is never going to be forgotten. The individual topics, the conclusions, and the declaration of this forum will leave a permanent mark on the entire World Science Forum series. I also have the honor to invite all of you to the next forum, which will be organized in Budapest in 2024, around the 10th of November, the World Science Day for Peace and Development. I hope to see you all there, and I can promise that we will do our best and try to come up with a similarly exciting agenda. Have a nice journey home, and I declare the 10th World Science Forum closed.
Thank you very much, Professor Freund. The forum is closed, but certainly the lunch is open. So please join us. It is in the exhibition venue for a typical South African barbecue. The actual barbecue will not be there, but the results of it will be. And let's continue the networking. Thank you again, everyone, and travel safely.